Hey, welcome to Broken World Entertainment, and this is our review for Rings of Power episode 4. It's 4, isn't it? So, nothing happens again. It's just more boringness. So, the episode opens with the Queen Regent, Muriel, and a bunch of mothers and babies in the tower, and she's having a talk, and she takes one of the babies and starts walking, and a petal comes flying in to them. All of a sudden lots of petals coming in. This is after a couple of tremors, and a big wave of water comes over the mountains, destroying the city, and hits her, and she wakes up. It's a vision or a nightmare of things to come. Instantly from there, this is less than 2.5 minutes into this episode, and we get what is essentially a Trump rally, a MAGA rally. I shit you not. We got the guy from the last episode who worked in the forge, the guy who Halbrand tried to take the pin from. He's standing there giving this rally speech about elves. They're coming to our land, they're taking our trades, and they don't sleep so they can keep working and put us out of work and all this shit. And he's a few cuts and stuff, and you're looking on. This dude got his head smashed against the wall twice, I believe, in the last episode. This mofo should be dead. And here he is giving this rally speech. But it's not just him giving the speech. We then go to the Chancellor, I believe they said it. I thought he was the king. I thought he was Muriel's husband. I don't think he is. How do you pronounce his name? Pharazôn, I believe is how you pronounce it. It's either Harazon or Pharazôn. Almost like his name is Amazon, huh? And he steps in, and he gives more of an impassioned speech where he's like, look at the calluses on my hands. I can guarantee you elves won't be taking our lands. And he's like telling them, like, look at you all, you're frightened by one elf. And they all just start chanting. And if you remember last week, Halbrand was getting into the argument with the guys in the bar when they're like, oh, here's the elves taking our jobs, taking this, taking our homes. And Halbrand, of course, went, don't forget your women. And he sorted that all out by saying, drinks are on me, I'll get the rounds in. And everything blew over. It was like, yay. Exact same thing happens with this. The dude gives his big speech and they all start rallying. They're all like, yeah, you know, Numenor, SARS, fuck the elves. And then he just went, drinks for everybody. And drinks just start getting passed around. And then we just get a shitty throwaway scene with the captain's daughter, the captain of the ship, his daughter, who's a made-up character. Don't know what her name is, don't care either. Her getting to know some other guy who she kind of bumps into. And then we immediately go to Galadriel and Miriel, talking. And when I say talking, they're bitching to each other. And for the 4th episode in a row, Galadriel demands to see the manager. Yep. Because the queen won't listen to Galadriel and is going to send her home. And remember, last week when they arrived at Numenor, all Galadriel wanted to do was leave, was get a ship and leave. Now they're going to give her the ship and make her leave. She wants to stay. But because of this, Galadriel says, well, then I demand to speak with the actual king, not you, not in a little piece of trash that's pretending to be in charge. And this is where you got the line from the trailer, or one of the trailers, where she says, there is a tempest in me. It's just so stupid. She screams at her. The queen says to her, Muriel says, like, you're something with a tempest, and then she just roars back, there's a tempest in me, and it drove me to this island. And then pretty much told the queen that she's nothing and blah blah blah, and she gets locked up in the same cells with Halbrand. So then we go to how do you pronounce this guy's name? Isildur, I think is how you pronounce the name. The captain's son, who I believe is the guy who, in the Fellowship of the Rings, is the guy who cut the fingers off Sauron to get the ring. So he's on the ship doing exactly what he was doing the first time we saw him in the last episode, except this time he lets go of a rope on purpose. The shipmaster demands to know what happened. He says he let it slip. He says to him, this is where this gets stupid, this scene. The captain says, I've seen you do this thing 100 times. You did that on purpose. Expels him from the Sea Guards. But not just him, his two friends. Why the two friends? Don't know. Nor do they tell you. He just like, you're gone, but not just you, all of you. And you're just like, okay. So he has a bit of an argument in the street with them too, and it's just bleh. Then we get to Don Lemonelf, whose name is Arondir and Adar, or Adar, however you pronounce it, with the orcs. There's an orc lying on the ground, seemingly dying, and Adar stabs it, kills it, makes him sad, has a conversation with Arondir, who's going to let him go, by the way. He basically tells him he's not a god yet, but he wants to be, basically. And then says, like, okay, I'm going to let you go because I want you to deliver a message to the village you'd come from. So then we go immediately to Bronwyn and Theo and all the people who are now gone from their village to this castle looking place. They're running out of food. They're like, okay, we're going to have to ration. And Theo says, well, it's daytime, so why don't we go back to the village, get the food and come back, because now it's daytime, the orcs won't be out. Because for some reason they seem to know that the orcs can't go into the sunlight. We only found that out last episode in the prison camp thing with Don Lemonelf. So how all of a sudden they know they can't go out into the open? Don't know, but so Bronwyn does want Theo to do it, but of course Theo's like, yeah, we're running out, so we gotta go for food. So he goes with his friend, who's the guy who called Arondir knife ears in the first episode, maybe second episode. I can't remember. The dude looked like he was in his 20s in that episode, but now we see him clearly out in the sunshine He looks about 15. So they go to the village, and this bit is great. So they've got a cart with them, and they filled it with food, and Theo turns around to his buddy and says like, hey look, we go into the tavern and check. And the guy's like, well, why would we do that? And he goes, because there could be more food there. And he's like, well, I'm not going in. So Theo goes in. He's like, right, I'll do it. He goes in. The door starts closing on Theo while he finds this bag of grain, which I thought was rice, but it's grain. The door starts closing. It closes, and he's like, calls out for the buddy. It immediately goes to the buddy outside, right? A cloud moves across the sun, and he loses his shit and takes off. Oh my god, it was funny. So from there we go to Elrond and Celebrimbor, who are watching the construction of the forge, which is somewhat halfway done. They just have a conversation, and Celebrimbor brings up that he hasn't seen Durin in weeks. So Elrond goes to find Durin, and he has a conversation with Disa, who is cooking. He's asking her, where is he? She says, have you not asked his workers? And he says, I have, all 19 of them. You can hear the kids singing in their room somewhere. It's weird, you don't see the kids. We never seem to see the kids. We've saw them once, but you don't see their faces because they had the big hats on. You don't see them. You keep hearing them, but you don't see them. So they're singing the song. Disa keeps telling them to knock it off. She tells him he's probably gone to this other place to mine for ore or something. And he's like, well, why would he go without his tools, and you're cooking his favourite meal? So she gives him the answer of you don't actually mine for this stuff, you pick it, and she's making the food now for when he comes back because it takes time. So you keep hearing the kids singing. So Elrond, the next scene then goes to Disa and Durin just walking out in the open in their home, cave, land, whatever, city, just out in the open. It's like, oh, she's trying to bullshit people saying, yeah, he's not here. They're having a goddamn walk and conversation in the open. So he's saying things are going well in the old mind, and then we see Elrond, who was somewhere else, being able to see them and hear them. So he follows Durin down to the old mines, can't find him, but sees his footprints going up to a wall, goes up to the wall, can't figure out how you go through it. And get this, he realizes there's a password to open it. The password is the song the kids were singing. Why do the kids know the password? So they could sing it? Don't know, but they do. Jesus Christ. That's like giving your credit card number to someone. They're just walking around singing it. So stupid. So he sings it, the door opens. Well, he says it and he bangs in rhythm on the cave wall and it opens. He finds Durin, who thinks Elrond now is here to get the substance that they're taking. And the substance they are actually taking is what was in the box that Celebrimbor showed Elrond in the first episode, or was it the second, whichever episode, the mystery box. And we all knew it. It's Mithryn, which of course is the mineral that the rings are made from. So then we go to possibly the dumbest goddamn scene in this episode, which is Galadriel breaking out of prison. Yeah, so she's pacing up and down in the cell. Hellbrand, aka Sauron, shh, don't tell anyone. They're talking with you. Well, she's moaning as usual. He's kind of telling her, yeah, look, you're a good warrior, but not in political arenas, basically. And they're going yada yada yada, back and forth, and all of a sudden the dude, what's his name, Pharazôn, comes down with 4 guards, right? So they open the cell and they bring Galadriel out, and they tell her, like, under order of the Queen, you're being put on a boat and sent home tonight. And she goes to put her hands out for the guard to cuff her. She grabs the guy and starts to pull him, right? She hits his hand away and grabs him. If you look behind her, 2 of the 4 guards are already halfway in the cell. They're like just walking into the cell. The camera goes to Pharazôn and Hellbrand. Pharazôn's like, what do I do? And Hellbrand's like, hey, look, you know where she's going to be, so you may as well let her go. The camera cuts back and she's already got all 4 of them in the cell, shutting the door, just locking them in, and has a grin. And he just lets her walk off. Where does she go? She excuse me, she goes to the tower where the king should be, and she goes climbing this gigantic tower, smashes through a window that's got metal on it or in it. What does she find? She finds the king is old as fuck and bedridden, with Muriel standing there. I was like, oh, how did you know I was going to be here? Or this is where I'd come? Yeah, good question. However would we know you wanted to see the king, the guy you were demanding to see earlier? And they just have a big bullshit talk again. And then Muriel brings Galadriel and shows her that she's got a seeing stone. Makes Galadriel hold it. By the way, she tells her, put your hand on it. And as she's about to put her hand on it, goes, oh, I should warn you. It's like, would you not have warned her before you told her to put her hand on it? She puts her hand on it and she sees the vision that was at the very start. Just that it's her on her own, but the wave coming crashing into her. And they tell her that's the future, Numenar's future. Then we go back to Theo. Oh, by the way, Theo, I forgot to say, because I got so excited to tell you about the guy getting freaked by the cloud. When he turns around in the tavern, there was an orc there, and he has a bit of a scuffle with the orc, but he pulls out the hilt of Sauron's sword, and the orc stops and is like, where did you get that? And he makes the sword grow by sticking it into his arm and cuts the orc, and he takes off and he hides in a well. The orc tells the other orcs the boy has it, blah blah blah. They can't find it. The orc takes a drink, drops a book down, it hits Theo. Theo kind of goes, ugh. The orc hears him, looks down on the well, can't see Theo, he's not there, he's clearly under the well, and just walks away. And just as he starts walking away, Theo comes bursting out of it, and I mean bursting. The noise of it and the noise he makes, you're like, how did you not hear that? But he doesn't. So now it's pitch dark, it's nighttime, and Theo is still in the well. So he climbs out of the well. The orcs are running around everywhere looking for him with torches. Somehow they can't see him just running around the camp. All of a sudden he has the bag of grain again, which was cut, by the way, in the tavern. And so was his leg. He got his leg cut. Oh, that's the other thing. The orc in the tavern was fucking running around like the goddamn Flash. And yet when Theo, with a cut leg, ran out of the tavern, the orc couldn't keep up. So he's jumping around. All of a sudden, an orc catches him. And right as he's about... The orc is going to cut Theo's arm off. An arrow comes through. Or no, sorry, the sword comes through the chest of the orc. And then it cut his neck. And it's who other than Arondir. And he puts his hand out. And I swear to Christ, when he put his hand out, I 100% expected him to say, "Come with me if you want to live." He doesn't, which was a bit of a letdown. But I swear to Christ, the very next scene, this is so strange. It's him and Theo running through a forest. By the way, remember, this is nighttime. They're running through a forest. The orcs are running after them, firing arrows at them. This is where you get the other scene that was in the trailer, where Arondir catches one of the arrows mid-flight and uses it and shoots the orc. So he's firing arrows, hitting the orcs. The orcs are firing arrows. They're fucking hitting everything. Barred, bleeding people who are just sitting there, by the way, on the ground. They're not even moving. All of a sudden, and by the way, this entire scene is in slow motion for some reason. This entire scene. Bronwyn shows up out of nowhere. She just comes running over me. They're just like, run. So they run. They run out of the forest, and it's fucking daytime. To the point the cloud moves and the sun is up in the sky. It's not like the sun is coming up from the horizon. It's in the sky. And you're like, what? It was fucking pitch black a second ago. Now it's sunny. And of course, the orcs won't run out into the sun. They were earlier, but now they're not. And yet, at the same time, remember, through the entire running through the forest, the orcs were constantly firing arrows at them. Well, not when they're standing out in the goddamn wide open for you to shoot. Because they don't shoot arrows at them at this point. Nope. It's only when they get up and start walking away, you see 3 arrows go past them. And that's it. It was so stupid. So then, Adar's message is told, of course, to Bronwyn. There's a fucking throwaway scene with the captain's daughter and her new buddy. Bleh. Before it goes to Galadriel climbing the tower to see the king. Yeah, so he relays the message to Bronwyn. And the message is the stereotypical surrender or else. And you're like, wow, how fucking original. Oh, by the way, when Bingy Bob, Elrond and Durin were talking, and Durin showed Elrond the Mithrin, the mine collapsed, trapping 4 dwarves. And the reason I bring that up is because after the whole message relaying from Adar of give up, we go to Disa singing, which was also what we saw in the trailer. What she's singing for, all you see is sand kind of moving, and Elrond asks her, what was that for? What was that? And she says she was pleading with the rock to release the trapped dwarfs with breath still in their lungs. And then Durin shows up and says he got the last one out and they're all alive. And they're like, that's great news. And he says, yeah, his father, the king, Durin, shut the operation down altogether. So he goes and has a conversation with the king because he's mad at him, doesn't want to speak with him ever again. But Elrond convinces him, don't throw that type of relationship away. He goes have a chat with him. They kind of make up, and Durin's going to go now with Elrond to the place. Jesus, what's it called? Can't remember. Place where they're building the forge. Then we get a bit more of the whole Don Lemon and Bronwyn shitty relationship stuff, and then we go to Theo, and Theo's sitting just kind of in the corner, and the old dude from the bar comes over to him and says, okay, where is it? He's like, where's what? He goes, don't act stupid, the hilt. I know you took it from my bar. So apparently Theo got the hilt of Sauron's sword from the tavern. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he shows him his marks on the arm. He shows him his mark, and he grabs his hand and starts having a conversation. And it's meant to be intense, and he says to him, have you heard of him, boy? Have you heard of Sauron? And you're just like, Jesus, the writing and this is terrible. And the acting, by the way, is shocking from this guy in particular. And he's just telling him, basically, he's a Sauron activist, basically. He's on Sauron's side. So that's the end of that scene. And then Galadriel is being sent home. She's been put on the boat. She's been sailed out to the other boat. The Queen and Pharazôn go to tell their people that you don't have to worry, the elf is gone. And as they're walking down, one of the leaves, white leaves from that tree comes blowing down. And then they all start coming down. So there's a breeze blowing the leaves down, which is what you saw in the vision, the leaves coming. And the Queen decides, no, bring Galadriel back, and we're going to actually help her fight for the people in the south. By the way, the south, what they're talking about, that area, is what becomes Mordor. Possibly because Sauron is in the jail. Shh, don't tell anyone. And this is where you also get that stupid speech and dialogue that you saw in the trailer of, this is where you shall learn who you shall be. And then it goes to the captain asking the people in the streets, okay, who's going to be with us? And the two friends of the son raised their hands like, yeah, we'll come. Of course, the son, yeah, we'll come. And then the most bizarre thing you've ever seen in your life happened. Everyone says, yeah, we'll come, but they don't put their hand up straight or even halfway up, like you normally would when you're saying, yep, I'm in. They all put it out, and it looks like a Nazi salute. We whisper that for YouTube. Shh. A Yahtzee. A Yahtzee salute. I shit you not. You're like, wow. And then you go back into the hall where they're like, okay, your queen is smoking, we're gonna help the elf and blah blah blah. They're all like putting their hands out and you're like, ooh. And that's where the episode ends. And thank Christ it did, because the episode was so boring. The one thing, well, there's two things I'll give it this episode. One is the stuff with Durin and the king, and the dwarf stuff in general was okay. It's pretty good. And the visual effects in this episode were actually quite good as well. There was one or two iffy bits, not terrible, but a little bit off. But other than that, they were fairly good. Probably because there wasn't much people in them. It was more kind of just the landscape stuff. Oh, by the way, that's one thing with the dwarfs in their underground. There's an awful lot of natural light coming into it. Really weird for places that's supposed to be underground, but whatever. But anyway, that's it for this episode. And thank Christ. God, I can't believe there's still what? Another 4 episodes of this shit. Jesus Christ. Anyway, I'll leave it there for this one. Cheers. Catch you in the next.